Roy had come back to life 139 times. Every time he died, he would wake up again on the same morning. He remembered everything that happened that day and knew all the details. On the 139th time he woke up, he quickly ducked to avoid a knife, sat up, put on his shoes, and dodged another attack. Then he stood up and bent down to avoid another one. He knew what the killer would do next, exactly when and how each attack would happen. He easily avoided the attacks and blocked the knife with his t-shirt. Roy made himself a hot cup of coffee, took a sip, and waited for the killer to get up, then threw the hot coffee in his face. Next, the helicopter that attacks arrived. Another killer on the ship would use a Gatling gun. Roy hid behind a column, knowing the first spray of bullets would take out the first assassin. 8 seconds later, the Gatling gun got stuck. Roy went outside and threw a knife, hitting the gunman in the head. After the gunman fell, the Gatling gun stopped working, so the weapon started firing randomly and automatically. Roy just followed the path to safety. Roy didn't understand why people were chasing him. All he knew was that a helicopter would crash into his room in 8 seconds, and its spinning blades would fall down 13 seconds after that. Oh, and one more thing, the helicopter blew up after 18 seconds. He jumped out of the window and landed right in a garbage truck. You might not know, but Roy missed that garbage truck 22 times before. One time, he fell in the street and got run over by a truck. Next, Roy took a sports car. Because he kept returning, he didn't worry about the rules anymore. The driver of the car shouted the same thing every time, but no one helped him. Roy also took the driver's sunglasses. Then a new group of killers arrived, which was a pair of sisters with guns. Roy needed to leave fast. They had tried to kill him 14 times before, but it wasn't just those 2 times. In one day, Roy had to deal with at least 7 groups of attackers. He had been blown up by the bomb maniac Kaboom 2 times. He had been killed 3 times by his own clone and 8 times by a skilled fighter named Guan-Yin. Roy managed to defeat everyone else at least once, but Guan-Yin was just too powerful for him. She always showed up suddenly and cut off his head with one quick move. Later, she would happily say, "I am Guan-Yin, and I did this." Sometimes, Roy was able to get away from all those people trying to harm him. Can you believe what he did next? He didn't even try to find out why they were after him or look into the whole situation. Instead, he went to a bar, asked the bartender for 2 bottles of the strongest Chinese alcohol, and drank a lot until he lost control. He had tried to fight back before, but there were too many attackers. Too much. He had never lived beyond 12:47 p.m., so he eventually stopped trying. Roy had a good idea of who put him in this never-ending situation. It must have been his former wife, Gemma. Gemma was a leading scientist at Dino Labs. Just yesterday, Roy went to see her in her lab. She looked very anxious. She asked Roy for help but didn't say what she needed. When he wasn't looking, she quietly cut off a piece of his hair. Then she said, "I hope you stop wasting your life, get it together, and be the man you used to be." Roy had been in the special forces before, but after leaving the military, he felt lost. Now he was middle-aged and without direction, and things were getting worse. That's why Gemma left him. But now, for some reason, Gemma had decided to give him another chance. Actually, it wasn't just one. It was as many chances as he needed. The next day, Roy tried to call Gemma, but her boss, Colonel Venter, answered instead. Venter said, "Gemma is already gone. You are next." It's obvious that Venter was in charge of everything. But Roy still didn't feel like trying to defeat Venter because every day was really tough. He couldn't get past the first level until he came back to life for the 145th time. Roy stayed in a mall that was below ground. By chance, he saw his son, Joe. Roy hadn't been a great father. He hadn't seen Joe for a long time and felt bad about it. He chose to talk to his son. As he took Joe out of the underground mall, he saw that it was already 12:50. This was the longest he had ever lived. Why didn't the assassins show up during this time? Then Roy understood something. There was no cell phone signal underground. That meant he had a tracking device put in somewhere. Then the assassins showed up, getting closer one by one. Roy's first thought wasn't to escape. Instead, he faced Joe and gave him a big hug. But it was already too late. All the killers shot at the same time. Bullets hit Roy's back. As Roy was close to death, he stared closely at Joe. This dying process was not painful. Instead, he saw surprise, sadness, and love in his son's eyes. For the first time, Roy felt really happy. This was his 146th chance to come back. Roy pinned the assassin and asked him how he was finding him. But the assassin was strong. He wouldn't say anything even when he was about to die. So Roy had to solve the problem on his own. He went to his friend Dave, who knows a lot about avoiding being watched, and asked him, if someone put a tracker in a person, where would they probably put it? Dave answered with some frustration. Suddenly, Roy thought about a pretty girl he met last night who is a dentist. On their date, she took Roy to her dental office and cleaned his teeth. Roy quickly went into the bathroom and started taking out his teeth one by one. After each tooth, he drank some strong alcohol. The pain was more than I could take. Finally, he found the tooth with the tracker. From then on, Roy could tell what the assassin would do. He used that tooth to attract them and catch them one by one. Then he surprised and quickly beat them. After winning against all the assassins, his next target was Venter. Venter was at Dino Labs. Roy drove straight there, speeding fast to break through the entrance. Instead, he ran into a wall, crashed, and died right away. When he came back, he tried once more. Roy drove his car fast into the building. There were more than 12 guards with guns. But Roy wasn't really in the car. Instead, he had set up bombs that blew off the doors of the security checkpoint. But he didn't expect the head of security to show up next to him. Okay, give it another shot. On his third attempt, Roy defeated his clone assassin. Then he changed his appearance to look like the clone and used its ID card to sneak into the building. He stepped into the elevator to go to the top floor. In the elevator, a guard with a weapon asked him for his ID card. Roy used his card but found out he wasn't allowed in. The big man quickly took Roy's life. On his fourth attempt, Roy got into the elevator and quickly shot the guard first. But when the doors opened, a group of security guards was waiting there. Guns were aimed at Roy. In a surprising moment, he shot himself in the head. Fifth attempt, Roy killed the guard again, but then saw a security camera in the elevator. That's why the guards outside were always ready for him. This is the sixth attempt. Roy dressed up as the guard to avoid being seen by the cameras. He got to the hallway but saw Guan Yin, the swordswoman, waiting for him there. Roy had a gun and she had a sword. It was clear who should win, right? But Guan Yin moved super fast. Bullets couldn't even hit her. She cut Roy's gun in half, then quickly cut off his head. Revival 152. Roy picked up a submachine gun and shot quickly at Guan Yin. She easily avoided every attack, stabbed Roy in the stomach, and then cut off his head again. Revival 153. Roy grabbed a gun. Still wasn't able to hit her. Once again, he lost his cool. After getting defeated more than 20 times, Roy finally realized that guns couldn't defeat Guan Yin. He needed a knife. Roy found Dai Feng, a Chinese swordmaster from Wudong, who had been the world champion for 12 years in a row. He asked her a lot to teach him how to fight with a sword. Since Roy was being honest, Dai Feng agreed. They started by practicing with just their hands, pretending their fingers were swords. Roy got hurt badly by Dai Feng. After practice each day, Roy ended his day and began again. Slowly, he started to learn how to use a sword. Soon, he got a wooden sword, but he still lost badly in fights. Slowly, Roy's position and punches got a lot better. In his 174th comeback, Roy was able to keep up with Dai Feng for a little while. After many tries, he finally got to use real swords. Roy won against Dai Feng in only 7 moves. Roy politely thanked Dai Feng and went back to the Dino Labs. There, he met Guan Yin again. Roy quietly set his gun aside and grabbed a sword from the wall. Guan Yin struck quickly, but Roy remained calm and strong. In just 2 moves, he cut off a piece of Guan Yin's hair. They kept on fighting. Roy put his left hand behind his back and used only his right hand to hold the sword. This time, Guan Yin didn't have a chance. Roy kept cutting close to her throat until, at last, he brought her down. Then Colonel Venter showed up. He was an old man with white hair and not very good at fighting. Roy quickly took control of him. In pain, Venter finally understood why Roy had become so strong. It was probably Dyneo Labs' ultimate technology, called the Infinite Restart Machine, that his ex-wife Gemma turned on before she died. Venter had originally intended to use this machine to take control of the world, but Gemma decided to use it on Roy instead to stop him. With a wicked smile, Venter said, "I also sent someone to kill your son, Joe. You might be too late to help him now." Roy felt scared. He quickly took care of Venter, got into a car, and drove fast to help Joe. But he got there too late and found only Joe's dead body. Roy understood that, no matter how many times he tried to bring him back, he had never been able to save his son. He fell apart completely. How could he be such a bad dad? Suddenly, there was a huge explosion. In the distance, the big restart machine broke down and blew up, wiping out the whole city. Roy came back to life again. He had given up on himself. Every moment he wasted in the past brought him to this ongoing sadness today. It was completely his mistake, so he gave up and let the first assassin kill him. Once, twice, 3 times means doing something 3 different occasions or instances. For times, he passed away, brought back to life, died, came back to life. Until then, Roy suddenly got up again. He wanted to fix things. He wanted to get back on his feet, just like Gemma had told him before. Roy went to see Joe, his son whom he had never spent time with. He chatted with him, played video games, and got him some snacks. When the city blew up, Roy simply started the day over and hung out with Joe again. Little by little, Roy started to understand his son. He found happiness being with Joe and slowly figured out how to be a dad. Then, one day, Joe said something unexpected. His mom called him that morning. Roy suddenly understood that Gemma was still alive each morning. He still had a chance to rescue her. Roy hurried back to the lab. After dealing with Venter and his guys, Roy looked at the security video. He saw Gemma get killed at exactly 7:14 a.m. Roy woke up every morning at exactly 7 a.m. This means he had just 14 minutes every day to help Gemma. When Roy came back to life, he hurried to beat the clock. He got into the helicopter and told the pilot to go straight to the lab. He got there at 7:10. At 7:12, he used the Gatling gun to take out all the attackers in just 10 seconds. 2 minutes later, he rushed into the lab, fighting off enemies. Just before Venter could hurt Gemma, Roy shot Venter first. Roy had accomplished it. He rescued Gemma. After beating Venter, Gemma hugged Roy tightly and said, "I knew you could do it." Hold on, the world wasn't fully safe yet. The machine would still blow up soon. Gemma said the only way to fix it was for someone to go into the machine's center. But it was a big risk. The person who went in might never come back. Roy saw Gemma and thought about his son Joe. He was no longer the sad man he used to be. Now he was a husband and a father. Someone ready to give up anything to keep their family safe. Without thinking twice, Roy went up to the machine. He stepped inside it and was surrounded by a bright light. The screen turned dark. The movie ends here. Please, my family, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.